what is a high place? What is a high place? If you're any reader of the Old Testament, you're probably just as frustrated as I am, because you read, this king did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. All right, we're going in a great direction. He pulled down the high places. He broke down the wooden images. And then the next king, he did evil in the sight of the Lord, and he rebuilt the high places. He rebuilt the statues to Astaroth and Baal. And I'm like, what's wrong with these kings? I want to slap them in the face. Didn't you learn from the other one? And there's more evil kings than good kings. And then there's kings where God would say, no evil has any king ever done to the degree this king has done. And he said, because of the sins of Manasseh was one. He said, I have to judge Israel. See, this is why I have a passion for our nation. I have a passion for those in positions of leadership. Because if I know anything from reading the Old Testament, I know this: leadership matters. Leadership matters. When a king and the laws and the judges went in an ungodly direction, God says there's judgment coming. Leadership matters. Well, we're in a new dispensation now, Shane. We're under the grace and not the law, and it's a different God now. And no, it's not. It's the same story. It's not the God of the Old Testament, God of the New Testament. The God of the New Testament is the same God. So there's a passion for that and directing our leaders to at least fear God again. So what is a high place? Well, a high place was very interesting. Jeremiah actually talked about a high place being built in a valley. But the majority of the time, a high place was built on a high place, on a hilltop, where they would go. God says, you worship me this way. And what would they do? They would say, no, we're going to build a high place on top of this hill so it would overlook other areas. And that up there, up on those high places, ungodly things took place. Very ungodly things took place, from the sacrificing of their own children to sexual exploitation. All these things, they would go up and they would worship what they thought was God. But it wasn't God. It was a seduction. It was seducing the people away. It was idolatry, child sacrifice, false worship. In every single instance you will find of a high place, it always appeals to the flesh. What the flesh wants to do. The flesh wants, most people have no problem with God. In case you haven't figured out, there's no problem with God. It's the God of the Bible they have a problem with. It's Jesus Christ they have a problem with. They think, oh, God's in trees. There's a cosmic ball of love. God's in everything. I have no problem with the concept of God. And they worship God however they want. And that's false worship. We don't worship God according to the worship prescribed and described in the scriptures, and worshiping God with our whole heart and mind, and loving Him and putting Him first as the priority, presenting our bodies as living sacrifices on the altar. So God's people, long story short, they learned how to worship from pagan nations. They would, look at how the Canaanites worship. Look at how the Moabites worship. Look at what they're doing. Let's worship like that. And it would always draw the children of Israel away from God by false worship, by these high places. And it's a good reminder to us this morning, we don't follow the standard, we change the standard. That's what a Christian community is supposed to do. You don't follow the standard, you change the standard. You don't just get into the school district and go, okay, well, we'll be a robot. Let's let our kids have transgenders read to kindergarten kids. No, we change the standard. We make a difference. We love all people, but we stand for the truth and we say, not on our watch. I love you enough to tell you the truth. I love our kids enough to tell you that we have to stand for the truth.